Good morning on this Memorial Day weekend. It's Peter again, and I just want to share a thought. As I take walks, I like sharing my thoughts, and this one is it's never too late to reach a goal. And I learned this from an individual who started on a journey at age 65 and at age 72 sold a company and made several hundred millions of dollars. So was it luck? I would say no. Luck is, if there is a word such as luck, it's preparation met with opportunity, and that only happens with us experiencing life. So let me share you the story of Terry Stone. I met Terry by accident. What I did is I accidentally sold the wrong investment fund to a client of mine, to his new fund company called Clarington. And because of that, he sent me this book, and it was a fascinating book, and it was something that had nothing to do with investments. It had to do with me as a human being. And over the years, I really had an opportunity to study Terry because Terry had worked and run other people's businesses, but at age 65, he decided to go it on his own, and he started his own mutual fund company. And he had very little resources. However, there was a study done that his company was considered the second most supportive fund company in the country, even though he had a fraction. So what Terry did is he outsourced everything. His management was outsourced, his marketing was outsourced, his administration was outsourced. All he had was himself and his team. Now he approached things differently. Instead of talking about mountain charts showing that you invest $10,000 in 1960 and 1995, it's worth, $5 million. No, he spoke to people's hearts. He talked about things that people cared about, things that actually were important to people. His newsletters would be really simple. Like he would go and send out a newsletter talking about, clean water, when other people were talking about what was happening in Asia, what was happening in technology and things of that nature. He had really incredible managers. However, he spoke to people. Now, he didn't have wholesalers, but his two partners in his venture were both CPAs. So they would go out, and what would they talk about? They would talk about tax and how people could do tax planning. That was really novel because every other investment firm back in the 1990s, they were all talking about how do you invest and make money and what's happening in China and what's happening in Taiwan and Hong Kong and South America and Cisco and the dot-com era, all that stuff. But no one was talking about what's happening with myself and how to plan. So these accountants would come and they would talk about things that actually were very appropriate to individuals. Now I was so impressed, because I saw what Terry was doing. He sold an incredible narrative of his story. And that to me was the cat's meow. So back in the 1990s, I used to run a very, very successful seminar series where I had 22 IT associations would feed into them. And we would have anywhere from 50 people to 500 people. And I'm going to tell you about a big disaster I had with that in a future video. And I decided that for a lot of these IT consultants who had no training in business, who really didn't know how to market themselves, I was going to bring in a master because I was completely in awe with the growth of his company and the fact that everything, again, I can't emphasize, was outsourced. However, he created a brand, a story, a narrative. So Terry came and spoke, and he told his story and what he did in marketing, and then he shared something that changed my life. So many of you know that I've written, who haven't I written for? I wrote, when I was writing for magazines and papers and trade papers, I had over 800 published articles. And let me tell you how that came about. Terry came and spoke to a group of 50 people, IT professionals that I put together. And he started talking to them about how he marketed, and then he gave them a suggestion. He said to them that he would write for anybody, if he was starting out, who would take his stuff. Now, you got to remember, I was struggling. I was back in my 20s back then. I know that I'm not in my 20s now. And an ad in some of these trade papers and papers would be anywhere from, let's say, $2,000 to sometimes $20,000. However, if I wrote something for them, they would take it, and I would get my name out there. So what he said that day that changed my life is he said, I would write for anybody who would take my stuff. And you know what I did? I sat there. I was in awe. It was great. There were 50 other people there. But that day, he spoke directly to me. That changed the course of my life. So what ended up happening with Terry? He built a phenomenal business. He eventually took in all the administration, he took in all the advertisement, he everything that he began outsourcing, he started insourcing. He grew an incredible business, and he was managing billions and billions of dollars from nothing, just by being a human being and actually giving good service and having a great story. So in 2005, a very large financial firm bought his company out. So my message is, it's never too late to reach your goals. And if you've had failures, you got to look at it as it's just preparation, because now you know what works and what doesn't work. And when an opportunity presents itself, you'll be able to seize it. And that's what Terry taught me. He taught me that in your late 60s, life doesn't stop. It can begin. So I'd like to say to each of you, go out and have a successful day, and you'll be able to reach your goals. And it doesn't matter what age you are, as long as it's authentic. And one thing I want to leave you with, you want to be inwardly directed, meaning you know who you are, and outwardly focused. You want to serve other people in a need. Capitalism is the greatest democracy. And what I mean by that is, if you provide a great service to other people, they will patron you. And they will patron you. And don't think that it's anything fancy, it's a magic elixir. And what I mean by that is, when someone goes into a car dealership and looks at cars, it's because they want a car. Now the question is, are they going to buy the car from this salesman or that salesman? But they'll buy a car. Whatever service that you have, if it's a really good service and it's needed by people, they will patron you. And it doesn't matter what age you are, as long as it's right for you, inwardly directed and outwardly focused, it serves other people's needs, and you will be compensated, just like Terry was.